Boruto episode 40, Team 7, the first mission. This, of course, is the first episode of Boruto for 2018. I think it was a fairly okay episode. Most of it was definitely talking, like in the beginning. I was like, okay, they're going to spend a couple of minutes and then they get their mission, they're going to go out. And it was really like more than half the episode was them just talking. And I think really half the episode, honestly, was before they even got to the actual village for the mission. So there's a lot of talking. We do get to see some of the other characters, which I did enjoy that. I always like seeing some of the adult characters. We have a small conversation at the Uzumaki household, so that was kind of cool with Hinata talking about her first mission and how she used to be really nervous, and for her it was still during times of war, so even her first mission wasn't really something that she was excited for. Granted, of course, Hinata was always the nervous character anyway, so if we asked one of the other characters, even as adults, they probably would have given a different answer. But I thought that was pretty cool. I was like, all right, that's a nice, just a little moment for Boruto to kind of get a bit of a lesson on how things used to be growing up for his parents and, of course, the older character. So I thought that was cool. We get to see, of course, Naruto in this episode because he gives the team their first mission. We get to see Shikamaru as well, and they have a little conversation about how they've both gotten to the age where they get to think about their sons going off on their first missions and stuff. We get to see our new Shikacho trio, and they're suck. The boys are just having a horrible time because they're just carrying a bunch of bags, and Chocho's just chatting up the lady. They're just having a grand old time. So I love that. I thought it was pretty funny. But like I said, it was a decent episode. Nothing super crazy. I was hoping that they would kind of get into the elements of the actual mission itself in this episode. It was really just like, with this episode being, or with this series being like the new generation of characters, they definitely do a lot of elements, a lot of kind of retelling of old elements, I guess is the best way to put it. Whereas like, okay, for people who are just now getting into it, who never got into Naruto, they're young, so they're starting off with Boruto as the first thing, and then they can go backwards. They do a lot of stuff where like they like, I even knew when I was watching, I was like, okay, they're explaining what the missions are. It's like, oh, the missions range from D rank to S rank and stuff, and it's like, yeah, I've known that for years, but it's for newer fans. So it's like, okay, they go through explaining that. They go through the extra character development to be like, this is who Boruto is. He's exactly like his dad is. Like, he's going out and it's like, don't go out and do stuff on your own, which naturally he does at the end of the episode. So it's like going through these elements where it's like, all right, we know this stuff, we know that stuff, and they're kind of just going through the paces, and it's like, all right, that's for newer fans. So for me, it was kind of just like recaps of stuff I've already experienced years and years ago. So there wasn't too much really added to it for me. It was just like the newer characters. But like I said, I was kind of hoping they get more into the mission in this episode, because it's called like the first mission, but they're hardly even involved in the mission until like the last, I want to say maybe the last 8 minutes or something like that, 5 to 8 minutes. And, they get to this village and it's like, okay, they already kind of tease it when they have the, Naruto and Shikamaru have their conversations. Like, yeah, things seem a little bit suspicious. I was like, okay, well, of course that means things are going to end up being a bit worse than they were supposed to be, and naturally it just skyrockets. It's just like the first mission. Well, I guess technically it wasn't the first, but our first big mission where the original Team 7 with Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura, they end up going to the village hidden in the mist. And it's like, oh, that was supposed to be like this non sequitur little thing for them, and then it just skyrocketed to the first main villain of the series with Zabuza Haku. So it was kind of cool. It's like, all right, of course, it went from a D rank to a B rank mission where they're fighting actual shinobi, and we see, at least for Sarada and Boruto, I thought it was kind of cool. We get to see them interact with this person who like totally outclasses him. So Boruto just rushes right in because that's his character, and he's like, like his first clash is to, just to say this, the introduction to the villain who, like, they said his name, but the introduction to that guy was kind of intense, because I was like, they go, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be he punched somebody or he did this or did that, and it was like he's holding this dude and he turns and he's got his sword like in this guy's chest, and I was like, well, that seems pretty intense. I wasn't expecting him to like just be holding this dude as he's impaling him, and then he's like, oh, here you go, and he throws the body. And I was like, oh, that was a bit more intense than I was expecting. After hearing that scream, it's like we see like him just holding this guy who really should have been dead, but even in the subtitles it was like, oh, we gotta like get a medic or whatever, and I was like, no, he's dead. Like, he was stabbed. Like, he was holding him with the blade in his heart. That guy was toast. But I was like, okay, that was a cool, dark bit of a dark introduction. Boruto just goes right in, like it was kind of funny, but he was just moved out of the way of the body, and then he rushes in, and when the guy swings his katana at him, and he blocks it with his kunai, he was like, oh crap, that was so heavy, like there's so much power behind that move, and all he can do is go in the defense, and so he's blocking, and he like every clash is like it's sending his arms straight up in the air because he's trying to hold on, and he's about to get taken down. Then of course Konohamaru comes in, so they kind of end the fight when the other villain comes in, and they throw like a flash bomb down, and then they take off. So we get to see these like the first missteps between both Boruto and Sarada, because Boruto naturally rushes right in without any thought to consequence or any real skill. He just went in, was like, I'm just gonna do this. He didn't even do like shadow clones, he did nothing. He just ran in with hand-to-hand combat, and he could have died from that. And then with Sarada, she completely froze. She was like, I did nothing. Like they show her and she's kind of sweating a little, and she's like, I just froze, like I did nothing. And Mitsuki basically like was holding the body. Like I think he would have been fine, but I think that's kind of the point, was to kind of have a way to have him distracted so that it shows the failings of both Boruto and Sarada. So really thought that was cool, nice little touch on it. So that admittedly has me super excited for the next episode, because I honestly can't wait to see how these characters deal with being outclassed. Like I said, Mitsuki, I think he'll be fine because of just who he is as a character and his abilities and all that stuff. But Boruto and Sarada have to not only work together, they talk about teamwork and all that stuff, but they also have to work on themselves individually, because they're in their first huge mission, and one of them rushed in without a plan and almost died, and the other one just froze as her buddy was going out to nearly get killed. So I thought that was a nice little touch on like, here are their shortcomings really fast in a quick little mini fight sequence. Here's their shortcomings. Konohamaru saves them, and then they go into the end of the episode where they attack the village again. The guy uses a genjutsu to kind of screw everybody's head up, and then they end up kidnapping the head of the village, this young woman. And so it's to get the deed to the bridge, which I guess is solely based on money, because I thought that was kind of weird when they were like, this is what they're after. I was like, that seems a little weird. Couldn't they just steal the money? Like, I don't know. I guess they're doing the illegal stuff to be like, nope, it's totally legal now if we have this bridge. But they end up kidnapping her and they escape. And so kind of at this point, the mission's sort of failing. But I thought it was cool. I was like, all right, I like that this is where they're headed. And now they have to go, save the head of the village and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to the next episode to see how this plays out, because the plan, even in the promo, is like Konohamaru being, the skilled leader, he's going to actually go in to kind of take the bandits out, and while he's distracting them, that's when the rest of Team 7 is going to go in and actually save the head of the village. They'll save her. Kitty is her name. And so they'll go and save her, and then he'll deal with all the bandits. But of course, it won't work out perfectly. So I'm looking forward to how that's going to play out. Looking forward to some pretty cool action. I think we'll get some pretty cool fight sequences. This one was actually pretty decent, the one with Boruto. Like, just the way they did the animation. I like the angle. It was like, it seemed like it was somewhat tilted, because it was like the way the camera was moving and stuff. They had the characters moving, and then the background was moving with them. So it was like, it was sort of a three-dimensional thing, but like the way it looked was like, oh, that's fairly unique. So I like the way that was handled, and I'm looking forward to not just the action, but definitely the story elements. I really want to see how Boruto and Sarada deal with being outclassed, because Sarada kind of stepped up a little bit at the end, where it was like, oh, like Konohamaru's like, just think, like, we need to figure this out. Someone's a genjutsu user, so let's figure this out. And Sarada uses her shining gun. And it was like, okay, so she's able to calm down a little bit. She was thinking like, all right, I'll look, I'll scan through the crowd to figure out where this person is. It didn't work, but she was able to calm down and do it. And then Mitsuki came up with his plan, and that's when they realized that the guy that actually grabbed the head of the village was with the enemy. So looking forward to that in the next episode. Like I said, overall, I think this was just an okay episode, mostly because they spent so much time talking, and it was a lot of kind of recap stuff, or just normal elements, which I feel like they've kind of done a lot of already. I feel like it wasn't anything new. It was just like, even though they're going into officially them being Team 7, I feel like all the stuff with the teamwork was there even before they were technically teammates. It was just like the whole thing with Boruto is that he was always doing his own thing no matter what was happening. So I feel like that's just always been there, and it didn't even feel, even though it should have been more focused, it didn't feel like it was a more focused story point to me. It was just like, yeah, he's kind of always been that way. He's just officially a part of a team screwing up now. So it's just like, I feel like it was technically the same thing. It was just in a different context, but it didn't make it feel any different. But it wasn't that big of a deal. Like I said, we got to see a couple of the side characters, so that was cool. But ultimately, it was entertaining. Especially like I said, getting to the end it like just really picked up. I don't know why, I just really enjoyed the ending for some reason. I guess because there was so much talking, it was just like anything at the end was like, oh, this is really great. So maybe that's what it was. Like the whole episode was like, it's okay, they're just talking a bunch, and then at the end it was like, oh, this is really cool, they're dealing with consequences and not being strong enough and stuff. And it just kind of like really ramped up in those last couple of minutes, action wise and story wise. So that's why I really do love the ending, just because it was like, boom, introduction to these concepts and cool little action sequence. And I was like, all right, that has me excited now for the next episode. So I'm looking forward to it. Of course, this episode actually did give us a new ending. Definitely my second favorite ending as far as music goes. I still love Sarada's ending. I think she had, that was like the best song so far. But I really like this one visually. I think this is my favorite ending without a doubt. Like the way they have it, where it introduces all the kids or a couple of the teams in the beginning, I thought was cool. So we actually get to see a lot of the costumes, because I mentioned before, like Iwabe and Denki change costumes, Sumidi changes costumes. I didn't even realize in this episode, but Shikadai has like just a plain beige like long sleeve jacket. That actually looks kind of cool. I was like, oh, that's, it's really plain, but it was like, that actually looks cool. Never noticed that. I didn't even notice it watching the episode that he changed costumes. I don't think I noticed it when they all changed costumes when they got their headbands. I don't think I noticed that for him like at all, and admittedly I don't even remember what he was wearing before, so it's kind of funny. It's like I don't remember what he was wearing, but I know it wasn't this, so it was just kind of funny when I noticed. I was like, oh, that's a totally different outfit, and I happened to miss it, but I noticed like everyone else's. But I thought that was cool to see the new costumes and stuff. And then the scene where they have the school and it's like a bunch of gray silhouettes, but you see some of the main characters kind of drop in. And then they have like the little training ground and stuff, and you even see some of the side characters dropping. Like they showed the kid for a quick second, the kid that kind of has like Kakashi's mask or whatever with like the frizzy hair. He was standing on one of the pillars. I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. They just have the characters we've seen before. They just throw the models in. I was like, I like that visually. I just thought it was cool. I do like the song. I think it's a pretty decent song. I don't think it's as cool as the one that was in Sarada's ending, but I still like this song. I like this ending, so I was like, that's really cool. And I was glad we got a new ending, and it was really funny because I was like, okay, we're going to not only episode 40, but we're going into the new arc of Team 7. It's the first episode of 2018. The episode kicks in, and I was like, oh man, I'm kind of shocked we didn't get a new opening. I was like, I would have expected that. Like, it's been a minute. I felt, I was like, we could have a new opening, new year, new arc, all that stuff. It's like, I wouldn't have been surprised. It would have been cool to have a new opening. And then it got to the end. I was like, oh, well, we have a new ending. I just assumed it was all going to be the same. And it was like, boom, new ending. So I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And of course, this is the second ending. I wasn't really like thinking about, how the endings were going and counting them or anything like that. So in my mind, it was just like all this new stuff was happening. So new opening, but it's like, oh yeah, you have to have like your second ending. Every opening gets two endings. But going into this new arc, we do have a new ending, very cool new ending. But looking forward to the next episode overall. But of course, I would love to know what you guys thought about this episode. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it. And as far as the characters going into this battle and the concepts that they have to deal with as far as not being good enough, not being strong enough, just all the different ways that they aren't really up to snuff for this mission. I would love to know what you guys are looking forward to seeing, action-wise or story-wise. And I would love to know your theories. I mean, I think we all kind of know how it's going to play out, but I would love to know your theories on how things might get chaotic, what the kids are going to have to do to step up if, something happens to Konohamaru where he's taken out for a minute. We'd love to know your theories on that. And like I said, definitely want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.